Hi everyone, it's Kelly from the Hub. I am here today with Grace. She is a diabetes educator in the WellSpan Health System here in Ephrata. Grace, how are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Excellent. So we've been talking throughout this whole health series with WellSpan about how little things make a difference, and how if you pay attention to the little things, then that can prevent some long-term stuff. So let's talk today about trying to prevent long-term issues with diabetes. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Yeah,
Perfect.
people
All
are always
right,
afraid
so
of what's going to happen down the road.
good. So walk us through some stuff and we'll sort of talk about it as we go. How's that?
That sounds great.
Beautiful.
So when we talk about long-term complications, some people feel that just because they have diabetes, certain things are going to happen, but it's related to elevated blood sugars. So the goal is getting the blood sugars under control to prevent the long-term complications from happening. And long-term complications that can happen are related to things with your large blood vessels, small blood vessels, which can affect the eyes, the kidneys, the heart, or we have nerve damage that can affect anything related to nerves. Most people think of feet, toes, but we have nerves that go throughout our bodies. So everything is affected in one way or another from the elevated blood sugars.
All right, let's do one at a time and we'll sort of walk through those. You said it can do damage to your large blood vessels. So those are the ones that go to your heart, right?
Correct.
Okay. So what does the elevated blood sugar do to those blood vessels?
It causes damage in the lining of your arteries. I one time saw a picture of what a blood sugar looks like, or what glucose looks like under a microscope. And this glucose had jagged edges. So when you think about it, if you have elevated blood sugars, and a lot of it, when it's going through the lining of your arteries, it's like causing damage and kind of scraping areas. And it's like, wow, that's kind of like frightening. And then if you have elevated lipids, elevated cholesterol, that's a good place where those are going to stick.
Oh, so if you, in your big blood vessels, you've got cholesterol stuff that sort of sticks around the edges, right?
Correct.
Which
Yeah.
is like, that's like buildup. And
Yes.
then the sharp, pokey, like jacks, little glucose things stick to that. So every time it's always running in. Oh, heaven's sakes. So what does that mean for my large blood vessels? So it's weakening them. So that means the arteries to my heart can be weakened because of high blood sugar.
Not so much weakened, it's more damaged, so that
Oh,
things stick better there. So if they're damaged, then that cholesterol can stick there better. It just creates damage to those linings. So that puts you at more at risk of a heart attack. If it's a lot blood vessels to the brain, more risk for a stroke. And we don't
wow.
want to go there. Yeah.
Which ties in with all of the conversations we've been having about strokes as well.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
good
And
to
it works
know. Okay.
the same way with the heart, because if you have the build of the plaque in those arteries over time, if it becomes totally blocked off, either with the plaque from the high cholesterol or a blood clot gets stuck in there, then it's going to block off that area, and that's going to create a heart attack.
Okay. You said it can do damage to small blood vessels, like in
Correct.
your eyes. What does that
Correct.
mean?
So if it's in your eyes, when we're concerned with the eyes with diabetes, is the retina. The retina is the back of the eye that contains all the blood vessels. So in that case, it caused damage to those blood vessels, where the blood vessels might rupture, or we have the blood vessels becoming blocked off. So then we have new tiny blood vessels forming. And if you get a lot of new tiny blood vessels forming, that kind of gets heavy in that area, which could cause a detached retina. It can cause bleeding in the retina, and those can lead to problems down the road.
What happens if you have a detached retina?
If you have a detached retina, the retina is pulled away from the back of the eye. And we can have detached retina and not have diabetes.
Okay. But if you have diabetes and it happens to do things in your retina, does it mean that you go blind?
You could, but the
But you could also
big,
have just funky vision issues.
right. But the
Uh-huh.
big prevention piece with your eyes, what we encourage all people with diabetes is get your yearly eye exam done, where they dilate your pupils, you look at their retina, and they can see if there's any damage before it becomes a problem for your eyesight.
So small vessels in the eye, any other place where there's small vessels where things could do damage?
Big place, the other place is kidneys.
Okay, what does it do in your kidneys?
The job of our kidneys is to filter the blood. So it takes out the poisons from the blood and we get rid of it as urine. Things our body needs gets put back in the bloodstream again. Example of that is like protein. Okay, protein our body needs, so that gets recirculated. When we have damage to those blood vessels, that's part of the filtering system. So if the filtering system becomes damaged due to the elevated blood sugars, due to elevated blood pressure, the filtering system isn't working efficiently.
Which means you're not filtering out the bad, as you're not doing a good enough job filtering out the bad stuff,
Right?
which means
And,
you could keep some bad stuff in you, which you don't want to do.
correct?
And you're also could be not bringing in, filtering the good stuff back in.
Exactly, exactly,
Oh,
exactly.
which means you can have kidney damage because you have high blood sugar.
Right, right, exactly, exactly. Yep. So again, keeping the blood sugars under control.
You can help to prevent that.
Exactly.
Okay. And then you said nerve damage.
Correct.
So you're right, nerves all over your body, but most people think of nerve damage in their fingers and in their toes called neuropathy.
Correct.
So what is that?
Neuropathy is, again, is nerve damage. The nerves have become damaged. So when it goes to send out signals, it's not sending out the right signals. So people might have pain. They might have numbness. They might have tingling. They might have loss of sensation. So if neuropathy can be very painful, but also at the same time, if they're walking on something, they might not feel it.
Which is why people who have diabetes, and if they have neuropathy, they have to get their, let's say they have it in their feet, they have to get their feet checked regularly to make sure they don't have stuff that they, like funk, toenail stuff, whatever,
Right, right.
injuries to their feet, because they might not be able to know it and they might not be paying attention anyway.
Exactly, exactly. So that's why we say, check your feet every day. Look at the bottom of your feet, between your toes, top of the feet, side of the feet, catch problems. And I tell people, once they're diagnosed, start checking their feet every day. Get in the habit of it, because there's may come a time where you don't feel. And if you're in the habit of checking it, you're going to catch that and you'll end up not having the potential amputation, because you've caught it in time, you've taken care of it, and you can prevent amputations.
So amputation comes because funk has, well, it's because the skin has died, and so then the skin dies, and then it's necrotic, it's dying, and then it dies and dies and dies and dies and keeps going up and up and up, and that's why you have to have something amputated.
Exactly, exactly. But if you catch it right away and get it taken care of, you can prevent that from happening. And keeping the blood sugars under control can prevent the loss of sensation and even the neuropathy.
So my stepdad, when he had diabetes and he had neuropathy in his feet, and so he had those checked, and he had it in his fingers, and he had a hard time then gripping things,
Right,
and
right.
holding on to things.
Mm-hmm.
So he couldn't drive because he had his neuropathy was bad enough that he couldn't drive because he couldn't really feel the steering wheel in his hands.
Wow, it's amazing. Yeah.
And then he couldn't, so then because he couldn't drive, he felt like he was a burden to the family because he wasn't being able to provide.
Right.
So that became other mental health issues.
Exactly. Yep. And that adds stress. And if you're under stress, that elevates blood sugars. It's like a 3-ring circus.
I have to tell you, the way you explain all of these parts makes it very easy to understand why pricking your finger how many ever times a day you need to do that, twice a day, 3 times a day, is so important. And managing what goes in here,
Exactly. Exactly.
which is what we're talking about as well with Steph, our dietitian. So I can prevent a lot of these things if I just do some management.
Exactly. And diabetes is one disease you have a lot of control over through what you can manage. Because medicine only does one part. The rest of it is you're doing. With the healthy eating, with the physical activity, making those small changes, dealing with stress, because medicine is not the cure-all, it's everything working together.
Yeah, I will tell a tiny little story. I said that my stepdad had diabetes, and he wanted the medicine to be the thing that fixed everything. So he would drink full sugar soda and then increase his medicine to counteract that, rather than making a choice on the other side.
Right, right.
That's not how you do it.
No, no.
That's not how any of this works. Right.
Right,
Right.
exactly, exactly. It's balancing everything together is your big key. Definitely balancing everything together.
Grace, as always, we learned so much from talking to you. Thank you so much for today. And we will make sure we'll learn more next week when we chat with you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you. See you, everybody.
Bye.